Perfect. She's going to need this at home. Those words came out of my son-in-law's mouth as he held up a maid's uniform, a blue uniform with a white apron that his mother had just given to my daughter Molly on her own wedding day. I saw how my girl's eyes filled with tears. I saw her clutching that uniform in her trembling hands. And something inside me, something that had been asleep for 60 years, woke up. My name is Eleanor Pierce. I am 60 years old, and what happened that night at the Grand Ballroom in Dallas changed everything. But to understand what I did, I need you to listen from the beginning, because there are stories that can't be told in one night. There are humiliation that are slowly woven with fake smiles and poisoned words. Molly met Robert 3 years before that wedding. It was January. I was preparing a pot of black coffee in the kitchen when she arrived, practically floating. "Mum, I met someone." That is how everything started, with that innocent phrase, with those bright eyes that I hadn't seen since she was a little girl. Robert came from a family with a well-known last name in the Upper East Side of Manhattan. His mother, Constance Harrington, Mendez's widow, had been the queen of her small kingdom her entire life. A woman who measured people by the size of their houses and the sparkle of their jewelry. The first time I met her was in a coffee shop in Midtown. She arrived 30 minutes late. "Oh, please excuse me, Eleanor," she said without looking me in the eye. "My driver got the address mixed up." She never called me by my first name again. From that day on, I was simply Molly's mum, as if I didn't have my own identity. My daughter was so in love that she didn't see the signs, or maybe she saw them and preferred to ignore them. "Mum, Robert is different," she told me. "He respects me, he loves me." And I wanted to believe her. God knows I wanted to believe her. The months went by. Robert was polite to me, well-mannered, but there was something in the way he smiled when his mother spoke, as if they shared a secret joke that the rest of the world didn't understand. One day, 6 months before the wedding, Molly came home quieter than usual. She sat down at the kitchen table where we had always solved life's problems. "Mrs. Harrington says I need to learn to cook better," she murmured without lifting her gaze. "She says her family has a standard." I felt something cold go down my back. "And what did Robert say?" "He laughed, Mum. He said his mother was right." That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the times I had allowed others to make me feel small, all the times I had kept quiet just to keep the peace, and I swore to myself that my daughter would not inherit my silence. But Molly was determined to get married, and I started making plans that no one imagined. I hired a lawyer, a good lawyer. I asked him for absolute discretion. "I want to buy a house," I told him, "in my daughter's name, only in her name." He looked at me over his glasses. "Are you sure, Mrs. Pierce? It's a major decision." I have never been more sure of anything in my life. For months, I worked double shifts. I sold the jewelry my mother had inherited. I sold the car that I liked so much. Every dollar I earned, I saved with one single purpose. Molly knew nothing. Nobody knew anything. The wedding day arrived. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and blue hydrangeas. All paid for by the Harrington Mendez family, of course. They made sure all the guests knew it. The ceremony was beautiful. My girl looked radiant in her lace dress. I cried the way every mother cries who sees her daughter walk toward an uncertain future. Then came the reception, the toasts, the fake laughter, the superior looks from Mrs. Harrington and her circle of friends. And then came the moment for gifts. Mrs. Harrington got up from her table. She carried a box wrapped in gold paper. She walked over to where Molly was with that smile that I had already learned to recognize. that smile that didn't reach her eyes. "My dear Molly," she said in a loud voice so everyone could hear, "I want to give you something very special, something practical." She opened the box slowly, deliberately, and took out a maid's uniform, navy blue, with a white apron, with the name Molly embroidered on the chest. The ballroom fell silent. "So you're presentable when you do the housework," Mrs. Harrington continued. "A wife must know her place." Mrs. Harrington's friends laughed discreetly behind their napkins. Robert came closer, took the uniform in his hands, and with that smile that I already hated, he said, "Perfect, Mum. She's going to need this at home." I saw how tears ran down my daughter's face. I saw how she tried to smile, to keep her composure, not to make a scene, and at that moment, everything became clear. I got up from my chair slowly. My hands were trembling, but my voice came out firm, clear. "What an interesting gift, Mrs. Harrington," I said, walking towards them. "Now allow me to give my daughter mine." I took a small box out of my purse, lined with blue velvet. "Open it, my love," I told Molly. She looked at me with those eyes full of tears and confusion. She opened the box with trembling hands. Inside were 2 carefully folded documents. She unfolded them, and when she read what they said, "Sometimes we trust too much the wrong people. Have you also been disappointed by someone you loved? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read you." Molly held those papers in her hands as if they were made of glass. Her eyes scanned the lines again and again, trying to understand what she was seeing. "Mum, what is this?" "Read it out loud, my love," I told her. My voice came out calmer than I felt inside. She swallowed. The tears continued to fall, but now for a different reason. "Warranty deed," she began to read in a trembling voice. "Property located at Magnolia Street, number 43, Beverly Hills neighborhood. Owner, Molly Sophia Pierce Adams." The silence in the ballroom was so dense it could be cut with a knife. Mrs. Harrington had lost all composure. Her face, always so carefully made up, had turned pale and then red, very red. "What does this mean?" Robert asked. He wasn't smiling anymore. "It means," I said, looking him directly in the eyes, "that my daughter has her own roof, her own house, in her name, only in her name." Molly kept reading the second document. Her lips moved in silence. "And this? Mum, this is a trust agreement." "Yes, my dear. A trust agreement that establishes that this house is yours and only yours, that no one can claim rights over it, not even your husband. I need you to understand something. I am not a rich woman. I never have been. I have been working since I was 16 years old. First in my uncle's stationery store, then at the neighborhood high school as a secretary, and later as an administrator. Every dollar I have earned in my life I have sweated for. I have worked for it with my own hands. But there are things that money can't buy. Dignity, for example. Respect. The certainty that your daughter will not depend on anyone to have a place to sleep. The house I bought was not a mansion. It was a simple 3-bedroom house, with a small yard and a fountain in the patio. But it was hers. Completely hers. "I don't understand," Robert said. His voice had changed. He was no longer the polite, well-mannered son-in-law. He was a man who had just realized that something was not going according to his plans. "Why would you do something like this? Don't you trust me?" I approached him. Very slowly. I looked at him as only a mother can look at the man who is about to hurt her daughter. "It's not about trust, Robert. It's about my daughter never having to wear that uniform your mother gave her. It's about if one day she decides that she no longer wants to be in a place where she is humiliated, she has somewhere to go." Mrs. Harrington finally found her voice. "This is an insult to our family." Her sharp voice echoed in the ballroom. Some people started murmuring. "You're implying that my son won't take good care of his wife." "I'm not implying anything, Mrs. Harrington. I'm just making sure my daughter has options." The guests began talking among themselves, some with approval, others scandalized. Robert's cousin, the one who had always been kind to me, gave me a small nod from his table. Robert's father, Mr. William, who had been quiet all night, rose heavily from his chair. He was an older man, 72 years old, with that air of authority that comes from years of commanding a company. "Eleanor," he said, approaching me. Everyone expected him to scold me, to defend his wife, but he didn't. He approached Molly and took her hands in his. "Honey, your mother is a very wise woman, and you are very lucky to have her." Then he looked at me. "I couldn't do this for my own daughter. I wish I had. Maybe today she wouldn't be living in a marriage that makes her unhappy." Mrs. Harrington let out a gasp. "William, how dare you?" "I dare because it is the truth, Constance. I dare because I'm tired of seeing how you treat people as if they were less than you." The reception never recovered from that moment. Some guests started saying goodbye early. Others stayed but with uncomfortable faces, not knowing where to look. Molly hugged me so tightly that I thought she was going to break my ribs. "Thank you, Mum," she whispered in my ear. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet, my dear. This is just the beginning." And she was right, because what happened that night was only the beginning. Let me tell you how I came to that moment, how I came to make that decision that changed everything. 6 months earlier, when Molly had told me about Mrs. Harrington's comment about her cooking, I had gone to visit my sister, Lucy. Lucy is 2 years older than me. Her whole life she had been prettier, thinner, more elegant. She married young to a man from a good family, Richard, a well-mannered, handsome man with a prosperous import business. For 20 years, Lucy lived in a beautiful house in the Hamptons. She had a driver, she had maids, she had everything a woman could desire, except respect. Richard cheated on her. Everyone knew it. He didn't even bother to hide it. And when Lucy finally had the courage to ask for a divorce, she discovered something terrible. The house was in his name. The cars were in his name. The bank accounts were in his name. Lucy had nothing. After 20 years of marriage, of raising 3 children, of organizing her husband's business dinners, of being the perfect wife, she had nothing. She had to return to my parents' house, at 42 years old, with her children, with no money, with no options. The day I went to visit her, I found her in the kitchen of the house where we grew up. Our mother had passed away 2 years ago. The house was empty and sad. Lucy was preparing chamomile tea. Her hands, which before were always perfectly manicured, now looked rough, without a manicure, with short nails. "You know what the worst part is, Ellie," she said without looking at me. "It's not that he cheated on me. It's not that he left me. The worst part is realizing that I was never the owner of my own life. Everything I had was borrowed, and when I was no longer useful to him, he took it all away from me." We remained silent, drinking that bitter tea. "Molly is getting married," I finally told her. Lucy looked up. In her eyes I saw something that broke my heart. Fear. "Don't let the same thing happen to her, Ellie. Please, don't let her make my mistake." That conversation changed something in me. It made me see that love is not enough, that goodwill is not enough, that promises are not enough. That same night, I started making calculations. How much had I saved? How much could I get? How much did I need? My salary as an administrator wasn't bad. After 30 years of work, I had managed to save something. Not much, but something. My mother's jewels were kept in a safe in my closet. A pearl necklace, some white gold earrings, a ring with a small diamond that my father had given her on their 25th anniversary. "Forgive me, Mum," I whispered that night as I took it out of its case. "But this is for your granddaughter. I know you would understand." I went to 3 different jewelers to get the best price. In the last one, the owner was an older gentleman who looked at me with tired eyes. "They are very beautiful pieces," he told me. "Are you sure you want to sell them?" "Completely sure." He gave me a fair price. Not excellent, but fair. I signed the papers without hesitation. Then I sold my car, a Ford Focus from 2008 that had lasted me years. It was old but reliable. A young student bought it from me for his wife. "It's so she can take the children to school," he explained with a shy smile. "It will last you many years," I told him. "Take good care of it." I started taking public transportation. The bus, the subway, long walks under the sun. At 60 years old, it was not easy, but every time I felt my legs hurt, that my back was killing me, I thought of Molly, of the uniform that Mrs. Harrington was probably already planning to give her, and I kept walking. I also started working weekends. I got an extra job giving computer classes to older adults at a community centre. They didn't pay much, but every dollar counted. Molly noticed that I was more tired. "Mum, are you okay? You look very thin." "I'm perfect, my love, just a little busy with work." I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. I needed it to be a surprise. I needed that day, the day of her wedding, when Mrs. Harrington tried to humiliate her. She would have something real, something tangible, something that no one could take away from her. 3 months before the wedding, I finally had enough money for the down payment. I went to look at houses with a real estate agent that a co-worker had recommended to me. "I'm looking for something simple but dignified," I told him. "With a yard, if possible, a place where my daughter can feel at peace." We saw 7 houses. Some were in bad shape, others were in areas that I didn't like, but the eighth was perfect. It was on a quiet street in Beverly Hills, a 2-story house, painted a light peach color. It had a small fountain in the patio with blue and white tiles. Bougainvillea grew over the back wall, filling everything with a magenta color. "This one," I said. "This is it." The agent looked at me surprised. "You don't want to see the inside?" "Yes, of course, but I already know this is the one." We went in. The interior smelled of fresh paint and cleanliness. The living room was small but bright. The kitchen had enough space for a large table. The bedrooms were on the 2nd floor, with windows overlooking the yard. In the main bedroom there was a balcony. I looked out. From there you could see the fountain in the patio. You could hear the water running softly. I closed my eyes and imagined Molly sitting there in the mornings, drinking coffee, listening to the water, in peace. "I'll take it," I said. The legal process was complicated. The lawyer, Mr. Davis, was a meticulous man, Mrs. Pierce. "I need you to understand something very important. If we put the deed only in your daughter's name, and then create the special trust agreement you are requesting, that means that even if she gets married, the house will continue to be only hers. The husband will not have any right over the property." "That is exactly what I want." "It is a little unusual. It can cause tensions in the marriage." "Mr. Davis," I looked at him directly, "if it causes tensions, then it was the wrong marriage from the beginning." He nodded slowly. "I understand. We will proceed as you indicate." I signed all the papers. I paid all the notary fees. Every signature was an act of love. Every seal was a promise. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning and went to the kitchen. I made black coffee, the way my mother taught me, with cinnamon and brown sugar. I sat at the table. The same table where Molly had cried when Mrs. Harrington told her she needed to learn to cook better. I took the documents out of my bag. I unfolded them carefully. I read every line again, even though I already knew it by heart. I hope I'm doing the right thing, I whispered into the darkness. I hope one day she understands why I did this. Outside on the street, a dog barked in the distance. The clock in the living room struck 3:30. I folded the papers again. I put them in the blue velvet envelope that I had bought especially for this, and I waited for dawn. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. After Mr. Williams said those words about his own daughter, the ballroom was divided. There were those who looked at me with admiration. Other people, especially Mrs. Harrington's friends, threw looks of contempt at me. Robert had moved away from us. He was in a corner with his mother, speaking softly but with abrupt gestures. She moved her hands as if she were conducting an invisible orchestra. She nodded a lot. Molly remained clinging to me. I could feel her trembling. I don't know if it was from joy or fear. Maybe both. Mum, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything, my dear. Just promise me that you will never forget that you have that place. That you will always, always have a roof that is yours. She nodded against my shoulder. Her tears wet the fabric of my wine-coloured dress. The band started playing again, trying to recover the festive atmosphere. But it was useless. The damage was already done. Or rather, the protection was already in place. Uncle Arthur, my late husband's brother, approached us. He was a man of almost 70 years, with a white moustache and eyes that always seemed to be smiling. Eleanor, he said in a low voice, what you did there, your husband would be very proud. My husband, Charles. He had been dead for 8 years, a sudden heart attack while waiting for the bus to go to work. He was only 52 years old. We never had much. He worked in a hardware store. I worked at the school. But we were happy. He respected me. He valued me. He never made me feel less. Thank you, Uncle, I said with a broken voice. When Charles died, I thought I would never be able to move forward. Molly was 17 years old. She was still in high school. Suddenly I found myself alone, with a daughter to support, with bills to pay, with an uncertain future. But I kept going, because that's what women do. We keep going even when the world is collapsing. And now, 8 years later, I was here, seeing my daughter get married, protecting her in the only way I knew how. Robert finally returned. His face had completely changed. He was no longer the loving groom. He was a stranger in a tie. Molly, we need to talk. Not now, Robert. It's our wedding. Precisely because of that, we need to talk. My mother just gave me the best gift anyone could give me. Molly interrupted him, and in her voice there was something new, something I had never heard before. Firmness. Robert clenched his jaw. For a moment I thought he was going to explode, but he didn't. Instead, he forced a smile. All right, we'll talk later. He walked away again, this time toward the bar. He ordered a whiskey, then another. Mr. William approached me as I watched Robert drink. My son is not used to things not going the way he expects. I know. His mother raised him that way, believing that the world owes him something, that people are tools for his comfort. I looked at the old man. His eyes were tired. Why did you stay with her all these years, Mr. William? He sighed deeply. Out of cowardice, Eleanor. Out of pure and simple cowardice. And because when you are 60 years old and have a life built up, getting a divorce seems harder than enduring. But not a day goes by that I don't regret it. He was silent for a moment. Then he added, "Don't let your daughter make my mistake. If that boy doesn't treat her well, if he makes her feel small, if he mistreats her in any way, you already made sure she has somewhere to come back to. I know. And I will be watching. You have my word." That was one of the saddest conversations of my life. Seeing an older man admitting that he wasted decades in a loveless marriage. The party ended close to midnight, much earlier than planned. The newlyweds were supposed to leave that same night for Hawaii, a week at an all-inclusive resort. I helped Molly change out of her wedding dress into her travel clothes. It was a simple white dress with embroidered flowers. "Mum," she said as I zipped her up, "how did you know? How did you know I needed this?" I told her about Lucy, about how my sister had lost everything, about how I had promised that the same thing would not happen to my daughter. "Aunt Lucy never told me that. Aunt Lucy is ashamed. She shouldn't be, but she is. That's how the women of our generation are. We were taught that the failure of a marriage is the wife's fault, that if a man leaves, it's because we weren't enough. That's horrible, Mum." "I know, my dear. That's why I want you to be different, to never accept being treated as less, to never completely depend on anyone." We hugged. I cried again. It seemed like I wouldn't stop crying that night. When we went downstairs, Robert was already waiting by the car, a black BMW that his father had given him. Mrs. Harrington approached to say goodbye. She had already recovered her composure. She was perfectly coiffed, perfectly made up, perfectly furious. "Molly, honey," she said in a sweet voice that fooled no one, "I hope you enjoy your honeymoon. When you return, we need to talk about arrangements, about where you are going to live." "We already have somewhere to live, mother-in-law," Molly replied. Her voice sounded surer now. "I have a house that your mother bought to control you, a house that my mother bought to protect me. There is a difference." Mrs. Harrington pursed her lips into a thin line. Then she turned to me. "You are a very clever woman, Eleanor. Very clever. But this is not going to end here." "It wasn't my intention for it to end anyway, Mrs. Harrington. I only intended to protect my daughter." "You protected her from my family, as if we were her enemies." "I didn't protect her from your family. I protected her from vulnerability. There is a difference." We looked at each other for a long time, two women of similar generations, two mothers, but with completely opposite views of the world. Robert honked the horn. He was impatient to leave. Molly hugged me one last time. "I love you, Mum. Thank you." "I love you too, my dear. Call me when you arrive." I watched the black BMW drive away. The cans tied to the bumper rattled against the pavement. Inside, I could see Robert saying something to Molly. She was looking out the window. I stood at the entrance of the ballroom until the car's lights disappeared completely. "You did the right thing," Uncle Arthur told me, placing a hand on my shoulder. "I hope so." "You did. You'll see." That night, I returned alone to my apartment, a small two-bedroom apartment in Queens. The walls were full of photographs of Molly, as a baby, as a child, as a teenager, at her college graduation, and now married. I sat on the sofa with a cup of herbal tea. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, about Robert's face when he saw the documents, about Mrs. Harrington's words, about the new firmness in my daughter's voice. At 2 o'clock in the morning, my phone rang. It was Molly. "Mum, We arrived at the hotel. How was the flight? Silence on the other end. Then, Robert is angry. He hasn't spoken to me since we left the ballroom. I felt my heart clench. And how are you? I don't know, Mum. I'm confused. I should be happy. It's my honeymoon. But he's punishing you with silence. Yes. I took a deep breath before speaking. My dear, listen to me closely. If a man punishes you with silence, with emotional abuse, with making you feel guilty for protecting yourself, that man does not love you. He wants to control you, and those are two very different things. Mum, we just got married. I knew. And maybe Robert is just processing everything. Maybe tomorrow he'll wake up and everything will be better. But if not, if in these next few days he treats you badly, if he makes you feel like you did something wrong by accepting my gift, then you know who he really is. I heard her crying on the other end. I'm scared, Mum. I know, my love, but you are no longer unprotected. Remember that. You have a house, you have options, you have a way out. We talked a few more minutes. Then she hung up because Robert had come out of the shower. I couldn't sleep all night. The next few days were torture. Molly called me every day, but the calls were brief, tense. I could hear in her voice that something wasn't right. How is everything going? I would ask her. Fine, Mum. Everything is fine. But I knew it wasn't true. On the 5th day of her honeymoon, she called me crying. Mum, I need to tell you something. Tell me, my dear. Last night, Robert and I had a horrible argument. He told me that the gift you gave me was manipulation, that you are turning me against him, that no true wife needs to have property in her name because she should trust her husband. I squeezed the phone so hard that my knuckles turned white. And what did you tell him? I told him that wasn't true, that you were just protecting me. And then he told me that if I didn't sell the house and put the money in a joint account with him, it was because I didn't trust him. That if I didn't trust him, then why did we get married? Eleanor, he spent the whole night not talking to me, Mum. He slept on the suite sofa. This morning we packed in silence. The flight back is tomorrow, and I don't know what to do. My love, listen to me. What Robert is doing has a name. It's called emotional manipulation. He is making you feel guilty for something that is not your fault. He is punishing you for having something that is yours. But Mum, maybe you're right. Maybe I should trust him more. Trusting does not mean giving up everything. Trusting does not mean giving up your security. Trusting does not mean putting yourself in a position of complete vulnerability. She cried and cried. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do, my dear. Deep down, you know. But you're afraid. And it's okay to be afraid. But don't let fear make you make decisions that are going to hurt you. We hung up. I stayed seated in the kitchen, looking at the cup of coffee that was cooling in front of me. I thought about calling Robert, about telling him exactly what I thought of him, about yelling at him that my daughter was not his property. But I didn't, because Molly needed to learn to defend herself. I could give her the tools, the house, the security, but the strength to use them, she had to find that herself. The next day, they were picked up at the airport. Mrs. Harrington, Mr. William, and me. An awkward scene if there ever was one. Mrs. Harrington didn't speak a word to me. She behaved as if I were invisible. Mr. William, on the other hand, greeted me warmly. How have you been, Eleanor? Worried. I know. Me too. When Molly and Robert came out of the migration area, I could immediately see that something had changed. They were walking separately. He was ahead, She was behind, as if they were two strangers who just happened to take the same flight. Molly hugged me tightly. She was thinner. She had dark circles under her eyes. "My love, are you okay?" "Now I am, Mum." Robert greeted his parents. He completely ignored my presence. In the parking lot, Mrs. Harrington approached them. "Children, come have dinner at the house tonight. We need to talk about your plans, about where you are going to live." Robert immediately nodded. "Yes, Mum, let's go." But Molly said, "No, thank you, mother-in-law. I'm very tired. I want to go home to rest." "Your house?" Mrs. Harrington asked with venom in her voice. "Are you referring to the house your mother bought to control you?" And then Molly did something I will never forget. She straightened up. She lifted her chin. She looked her mother-in-law directly in the eyes. And she said, "I am referring to my house, the house that is in my name, the house where my husband and I are going to live. And if he has a problem with that, then we have bigger problems than deciding where to have dinner." The silence that followed was absolute. Robert looked at her with wide eyes. Mr. Williams smiled slightly. Mrs. Harrington turned red as a tomato. And I felt like I could breathe for the first time in days. My daughter had found her voice. I still wonder if I did the right thing. And you? What would you have done in my place? The house in Beverly Hills was empty when we arrived. Molly had insisted that we go directly from the airport. Robert was driving the BMW in silence, jaw clenched. I followed in a taxi. When we arrived, the afternoon sun illuminated the bougainvillea growing over the wall. The fountain in the patio sang softly. Everything looked exactly as I had imagined that first time I saw the property. Molly got out of the car and stood in front of the main door. It was solid wood, walnut colour, with a wrought iron knocker in the shape of a moon. "It's beautiful, Mum," she whispered. I took the keys out of my purse. 2 sets, one for her, another spare for me, just for safety. "It's yours, my dear, all yours." Robert took the suitcases out of the car with abrupt movements. He dropped them at the entrance with more force than necessary. "Are you going to let us in, or are we going to stand here admiring the facade?" His voice was cutting. I opened the door. The interior smelled new, of fresh paint and possibilities. The living room had clay tile floors. The windows overlooked the yard. There was a small dining room that connected to the kitchen. Everything was empty, of course. There was no furniture yet. "I thought you could decorate it to your liking," I told Molly. "Choose your own furniture. Make this place truly yours." She walked through every room, touching the walls, looking out the windows, discovering every corner. Her eyes shone in a way I hadn't seen in weeks. Robert, on the other hand, walked with his hands in his pockets, examining everything with a look of disgust. "It's small," he finally said. "It has 3 bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, living room, dining room, kitchen, and a yard," I replied. "For a young couple, it is more than enough. My apartment in Midtown is bigger. This is her house, not a rented apartment." He looked at me with cold eyes. "It's not her house, it's Molly's. You made sure of that, didn't you?" "Exactly." We went up to the 2nd floor. The main bedroom had that balcony that I had liked so much. From there you could see the fountain, surrounded by ferns and small white flowers that I myself had planted a week before the wedding. Molly went out onto the balcony. The wind moved her hair. For a moment she looked like a little girl again. My girl. "Mum, this is perfect." Robert entered the bedroom, looked around, and let out a dry laugh. "Perfect? It doesn't even have enough closet space for all my clothes." "You can put an additional closet in," I suggested, "or use one of the other bedrooms as a dressing room. Or we could sell this house and buy something better." something that belongs to both of us. The silence that followed was heavy. Molly turned from the balcony. We are not going to sell the house, Robert. Why not? If you really trusted me, this has nothing to do with trust. She interrupted him. Her voice was firm but tired. It has to do with the fact that this is the first thing in my life that is completely mine. Can you understand that? What I understand is that your mother manipulated both of us. My mother protected me. Why is it so hard for you to see the difference? I cleared my throat. I think it's better if I leave you alone. You have a lot to talk about. I quickly went down the stairs. I could hear their voices getting louder. I didn't want to be there. They needed to resolve this between themselves. Before leaving, I left the second set of keys on the kitchen sink. And I also left an envelope. Inside were $5,000. It wasn't much, but it was something for them to start buying the basics. Furniture, kitchen utensils, curtains. The taxi was waiting for me outside. The driver was leaning against the car, smoking a cigarette. Everything okay, Mum? Everything's fine, I lied. During the drive back to my apartment, I wondered if I had done the right thing. If maybe Mrs. Harrington was right. If perhaps my gift had been a form of manipulation. But then I thought of Lucy, about how she had lost everything, about how she had returned to our parents' house with nothing, without options, without dignity, and I knew I had done the right thing. The next few days were strange. Molly called me infrequently. When she did, her voice sounded muted. How are things going? Fine, Mum. Have you bought furniture yet? Some. Robert insists that everything be a certain brand. He says he can't live with common furniture. And what do you think? I think we don't have the money for designer furniture. But he doesn't want to listen. One Friday afternoon, 2 weeks after they returned from the honeymoon, I went to visit them without calling ahead again. I brought a large pot of mac and cheese that I had made the day before. I also brought freshly baked biscuits from a bakery near my house. I rang the doorbell several times before Molly opened it. I was scared when I saw her. Her hair was pulled back in a sloppy ponytail. She was wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt. But what alarmed me the most were her eyes. They were red and swollen. My dear, what happened? Nothing, Mum. I'm just tired. Don't lie to me. She looked behind her, into the house, and then lowered her voice. Robert is not here. He went to his parents' house. And why didn't you go? Because they don't invite me anymore. Mrs. Harrington says that as long as I live in this house, I'm not welcome in hers. I felt rage rise up my throat like bile. That woman? It's okay, Mum. Really. I prefer not to go. Every time I go, she makes me feel small. We went into the house. There was some furniture already. A grey sofa in the living room. A glass coffee table. In the dining room, a light wood table with 4 chairs. Everything looked very impersonal, like a furniture showroom, without photographs, without colour, without life. Where are your things? I asked. Your books, your plants, those embroidered pillows you liked so much. Robert says they don't go with the style of the house. Robert says. I repeated the words bitterly. And what do you say? She sat on the sofa and hugged her knees. I don't know what to say, Mum. Every time I suggest something, he rejects it. He says I have no taste, that he knows better because he grew up surrounded by beautiful things. I sat next to her and hugged her. My love, this is your house, yours, not his. If you want to fill it with embroidered pillows and plants and photographs in colourful frames, it's your decision. But we live together. I have to consider what he wants. Considering does not mean completely cancelling yourself out. Considering means reaching agreements. It means that sometimes things are the way you want and sometimes the way he wants. Not that it is always the way he wants. We heated the mac and cheese in the kitchen. The kitchen at least looked more used. There were pots and pans, spices in an organizer, a container with wooden spoons. At least here he lets me do what I want, Molly said with a sad smile. He says the kitchen is my territory. How generous of him. I couldn't help the sarcasm. We ate together at the dining room table. The mac and cheese was good, as always, the biscuits hot and soft. I miss you, Mum, she said suddenly. I miss living with you. I miss our talks in the kitchen. I miss you braiding my hair before bed. I miss you too, my dear. But this is your life now, your marriage. You have to make it work. And if it doesn't work, the question hung in the air between us. Then you have options. This house, your education, your ability. You are not trapped. She nodded slowly, but I could see in her eyes that she didn't completely believe me. Robert arrived near 7 o'clock in the evening. He entered through the door with that air of owning the world that I already knew well. Eleanor, he greeted me without smiling. I didn't know you were coming. I brought food for you all. I already ate at my parents' house. Real food. The implication was clear. My mac and cheese was not real food. I got up and started clearing the dishes. Well, I'm leaving now. I'll let you rest. Molly walked me to the door. When Robert couldn't hear us, I whispered, If you need me, no matter the time, call me, okay? Okay, Mum. I hugged her hard, very hard. I love you. I love you too. In the taxi ride back, I cried. I cried because my daughter was suffering and I couldn't do anything. I cried because the marriage she had been so excited about was turning into a cage. I cried because I knew things were going to get worse before they got better. The weeks passed. Molly kept calling me, but less and less often. When we spoke, it was brief. How are you? Fine. How are things with Robert? Fine. Are you sure? Yes, Mum. Don't worry. But I worried. I worried all the time. One Saturday morning, a month and a half after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Mr. William. Eleanor, I need to talk to you. Tell me, Mr. William. Not over the phone. Can we meet today? Me and my daughter, Gloria. Your daughter? Yes, the one I mentioned at the wedding. The one who is in an unhappy marriage. She wants to meet you. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. I arrived first, ordered a black coffee, and sat by the window. Mr. William arrived 10 minutes later with a woman in her 40s. She was thin, with her brown hair pulled back in a bun. She was dressed elegantly, but looked tired. Eleanor, this is my daughter Gloria. Gloria, this is Eleanor Pierce, Molly's mum. We shook hands. Hers was cold. Nice to meet you, she said softly. We sat down. Mr. William ordered coffee for himself and tea for his daughter. My father told me what you did, Gloria began, about the house for your daughter. I wish my mother had done something like that for me. I looked at Mr. William. He nodded, encouraging her to continue. Gloria took a deep breath. I have been married for 15 years to a man who mistreats me. Not physically. He has never laid a hand on me. But emotionally he has destroyed me. Her voice cracked a little. She stopped. She took a sip of tea. When I got married, I worked at my father's company. I was the director of marketing. I liked my job. I was good at what I did. She was excellent, Mr. William corrected. My husband, Maurice, started saying that I didn't need to work. that he earned enough, that a wife should be at home. I left my job because I thought that would make us happy. She paused for a long time. But it didn't make us happy. He kept finding things to complain about, that the house wasn't clean enough, that the food wasn't like his mother's, that I had become boring because I no longer had anything to talk about except the home. Gloria. I took her hand across the table. It was trembling. 3 years ago I asked him for a divorce, and I discovered that I had nothing. The house is in his name, the cars, the bank accounts, everything. I haven't worked in 12 years. I don't have recent experience. I don't have my own savings. And your father's company? Morris convinced my mother that I shouldn't go back, that it would be uncomfortable, that it was better if I stayed home. Mr. William closed his eyes. I could see the pain on his face. I should have defended her more, he said. I should have confronted Constance, but I didn't. And now my daughter is trapped. I'm not trapped, Gloria said with a thin voice. I'm just out of options. That's why I wanted you to talk to her, Mr. William explained. So you could see what can happen. So your Molly doesn't end up like this. Molly has the house, I said. She has options. But for how long? Gloria asked. How long before Robert convinces her to sell it, or to put his name on the deed? My husband also started like that, little by little, asking for small things, making me feel selfish for wanting to keep something of mine. Her words chilled my blood. What are you telling me? I'm telling you to watch your daughter, to be vigilant, because men like Robert, like my brother, don't change. They just become more subtle. Mr. William looked at me with tired eyes. Robert is my son, and I love him, but I'm not blind. I know how he is. I know how his mother raised him, and I'm afraid for Molly. Me too, I admitted. Gloria squeezed my hand. Don't let your daughter end up like me. Please. We stayed there, in that coffee shop in Brooklyn. 3 people united by the fear that the women we loved were in danger. When I returned home that afternoon, I called Molly. My dear, I need to see you. Mum, I can't right now. Robert and I are going to the movies. To the movies? That's good. What are you going to see? I don't know. He's going to choose. And you don't want to choose? I don't really care. Anyway, I never like the same movies as him. That phrase, that simple phrase told me everything I needed to know. My daughter was losing herself. Molly. Yes, Mum. I love you. And I'm here. I'm always going to be here. I know, Mum. I love you too. We hung up. I stayed seated in my living room, looking at the photographs on the wall. Molly as a child, smiling without worries. Molly at her graduation, proud and happy. Molly on her wedding day, beautiful, but with something of fear in her eyes that I hadn't wanted to see. And I understood something. Giving her the house had been only the first step. I had put the tools for her freedom in her hands. But now I had to teach her how to use them, because a cage doesn't need walls when the person caged doesn't know she can fly. As I tell all this, I think about where you might be listening to me. Write the name of your city in the comments. 3 months after the wedding, things had gotten worse in ways I hadn't anticipated. Molly had stopped dressing up like before. She no longer wore those colourful dresses that she liked so much. Now she only dressed in black, grey, or beige. Neutral colours, colours that didn't draw attention. It's just that Robert says bright colours are for young women. She explained to me one day when I asked her. He says that now that I'm a married woman, I should look more serious, more mature. You're 26 years old, Molly. You're young. I know, Mum, but it's easier this way. If I dress how he likes, we don't have arguments. She had also stopped seeing her friends. Lauren, her best friend since high school, had called me a week earlier. "Mrs. Pierce, is Molly okay? She no longer answers my messages. The last time I invited her out for coffee, she told me she couldn't because Robert didn't want her to go out alone." That Robert didn't want her to go out alone? Yes. He said that he thought it was inappropriate for a married woman to be out with single friends, that it gave a bad image. Every new piece of information was like a dagger in my heart. One Thursday afternoon, I decided to go visit her without calling ahead again. I needed to see with my own eyes how my daughter really was. I rang the doorbell several times. No one opened. I took out my emergency set of keys and went in. The house was in the gloom, all the curtains closed. It smelled of being shut up. "Molly?" I heard a noise on the second floor. I went up quickly. I found her in the main bedroom, sitting on the floor of the balcony, hugging her knees. Her gaze was lost. "My dear, what are you doing here in the dark?" She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me for a moment. Then her eyes focused. "Mum, I didn't know you were coming. You didn't open when I rang. I didn't hear." I sat next to her on the floor. It was cold. The rainy season was starting and the sky was grey. "What's wrong, my love? And don't tell me nothing, because it's not nothing." She remained silent for a long time. Then, in a voice so small I could barely hear her, she said, "I'm pregnant." The world stopped for a moment. "Pregnant? 2 months. And Robert knows?" "Yes." "And what did he say?" She started crying, deep sobs that shook her whole body. "He said that now I definitely wouldn't be able to work, that I would have to dedicate myself completely to the house and the baby. He said it was time to sell this house, because with a baby, we are going to need something bigger, something in Midtown, close to his parents." I felt my blood boil. "Sell the house?" "He says that with what we get from this house and what he has saved, we can buy a nice apartment. In both our names, of course, because now we are going to be a real family." "Molly, look at me." She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. "Don't sell the house." "But Mum." "No, don't. Sell the house." I said every word clearly. "This house is your insurance. It is your freedom. It is your way out. Don't sell it." "But we're going to have a baby. Robert is right. We need something bigger." "This house has 3 bedrooms, 1 for you, 1 for the baby, and 1 for guests. It is more than enough." "Robert says the neighborhood is not good, that Beverly Hills is too far from everything." "Robert says. Always Robert says. And what do you say, Molly? What do you want?" She was silent, and in that silence I understood something terrible. My daughter no longer knew what she wanted. She no longer knew who she was. "Listen to me closely." I took her hands. "I know you are scared. I know a baby changes everything. But don't let fear make you give up the one thing that is yours. Robert has his properties, he has his money, he has everything. But this house is yours, only yours. I don't want to fight with him, Mum. I'm so tired of fighting." "I know, my dear. I know." I hugged her while she cried. Her body was thinner. I could feel her ribs. "Have you eaten today?" "I'm not hungry." "Are you going to the doctor?" "Robert wants me to go to his mother's gynecologist, a doctor in Midtown." "And do you want to go to that doctor?" "I don't know him." "Then let's find another one that you choose, one that you feel comfortable with." Robert is going to get angry. "Robert is not the one who is pregnant. You are. You decide. For the first time in that conversation, I saw a flash of something in her eyes. I don't know if it was hope or just a spark of the Molly I knew. That night I stayed to sleep in the house. Molly didn't protest. I think she needed company. I made chicken soup with vegetables, nothing too heavy. She ate a little, but she ate something. We were watching television when Robert arrived near 10 o'clock in the evening. "Eleanor," he greeted me with that cold tone that was already habitual. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see my daughter." "I see. Well, you've seen her. Now you can leave." Molly was sitting on the sofa, very still. I could see how she tensed up. "Actually, I'm going to stay tonight," I said. "Molly isn't feeling well and I want to be here." "It's not necessary. I can take care of my wife." "I'm sure you can, but I'm staying anyway." We stared at each other. It was a battle of wills. "Robert," Molly said with a trembling voice, "let her stay, please." He clenched his jaw. Then he went up the stairs without saying a word. "Thank you, Mum," Molly whispered. "You have nothing to thank me for." I slept in the guest room. Or rather, I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, listening. I heard when Robert entered the main bedroom. I heard their voices. He spoke in a low but harsh tone. She answered in monosyllables. I couldn't hear the exact words, but I didn't need to hear them. I knew that tone. It was the tone of a man who is used to getting his way. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I heard someone come down the stairs. I peered out. It was Molly. She went to the kitchen. She opened the refrigerator. She stood in front of the light, looking at the contents without taking anything out. I got up and went downstairs. "Can't sleep." She jumped. She hadn't heard me. "Mum, you scared me." "Sorry, my dear. Do you want me to make you something? Tea? Warm milk?" "I don't know what I want." She sat down in one of the dining room chairs. I put milk with cinnamon on the stove to heat up. "Robert is very angry," she said after a while. "He says that you are turning me against him, that before the wedding I was different. And what do you think?" "I think everything was easier before, when we were just dating, when he was sweet and attentive." "People don't change overnight, Molly. They just stop pretending." "Do you think he was pretending?" I poured the milk into 2 mugs. I sat across from her. "I think that when a man is courting, he shows his best version, and when he feels he has you, he shows his real version. So the Robert I knew wasn't real. Maybe he was real, but he wasn't complete. Now you are seeing the whole picture." She took a sip of milk. A tear rolled down her cheek. "I don't know if I can do this, Mum. Being a wife, being a mother, living like this." "You don't have to live like this. There are other ways." "Get a divorce?" "We just got married. I'm pregnant. I can't get a divorce." "I'm not saying you have to get a divorce. I'm saying you set boundaries, that you let him know that he can't treat you like you're his property." "It's easier said than done." "I know, my dear. Believe me, I know." We finished the milk in silence. Then I walked her back to her bedroom. "Mum?" "Yes?" "Were you happy with my dad?" The question caught me by surprise. "Very. Your dad was a good man." "But did you have problems?" "All marriages have problems, my love. The difference is how you resolve them. Your dad and I talked. We listened to each other. We respected each other. Neither of us tried to control the other." Robert says that controlling is another way of loving, that when someone loves you, they want to know where you are, what you're doing, who you're talking to. That's not love, Molly. That's possession. And there's a huge difference, since. She nodded slowly. "Good night, Mum." "Good night, my dear." The next morning I woke up early. I went downstairs and made coffee. I also made scrambled eggs with home fries. Robert came down first. He was dressed in a perfectly ironed grey suit. He smelled of expensive cologne. "Good morning," I told him. "Good morning," he replied without looking at me. He poured himself coffee and sat at the table with his phone. "Robert, we need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about." "I think we do. It's about Molly." "My wife is not your problem. She is my daughter. She will always be my problem." He looked up from his phone. His eyes were cold. "Look, Eleanor, I know you think you know me, that you know exactly what kind of man I am, but you don't know anything." "I know enough." "Yeah? Do you know that I love your daughter, that I would do anything for her?" "What I see is a man who is trying to isolate his wife, to cut her off from her friends, from her family, from everything that makes her feel like herself. What you see is what you want to see." "Then prove me wrong. I don't have to prove anything to you." At that moment, Molly came downstairs. She was wearing an old nightgown, her hair messy. She looked vulnerable. "Good morning," she said in a small voice. Robert immediately stood up. His attitude changed completely. Suddenly he was all smiles. "My love, how did you wake up? Did you sleep well?" "Yes." "Do you want me to prepare you something? Fruit? Yogurt?" "I already prepared breakfast," I said. Robert gave me a quick glance. Then he smiled at Molly again. "I have to leave. Important meeting. But I'll call you later, okay?" He gave her a kiss on the forehead. Then he left without saying goodbye to me. Molly and I ate breakfast in silence. She ate a little more than the night before. That was good. "Mum, I need to tell you something." "Tell me." "Yesterday, before you arrived, Robert gave me a surprise." "What kind of surprise?" "He spoke with a real estate agent. He already has 2 apartments on the list for us to see. In Midtown. Near Mrs. Harrington's house." I felt my stomach clench. "And what did you say?" I told him that I had to think about it first. He got angry. He said that any woman would be happy to move to Midtown, that only I would find reasons to complain. "Molly, listen to me. You don't have to sell this house. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do." "But he already spoke with the agent. He already made plans." "Plans without consulting you. Plans without your consent. That tells you everything you need to know." She played with the home fries on her plate. "Sometimes I think Mum Constance is right, that I am difficult, that any other woman would be more grateful. Mrs. Harrington is a bitter woman who raised a son who thinks women are objects. Don't listen to her. She is my husband's mother, the grandmother of my baby. And that doesn't make her wise, or good, or worthy of your respect if she doesn't respect you." After breakfast, I stayed a little longer. I helped Molly clean up. I noticed how she avoided certain topics, how she changed the conversation when I asked about her plans. Near noon, her phone rang. It was Robert. I could hear his voice from where I was, loud, insistent. "Yes, she's leaving now. No, nothing happened. Yes, I promise you. Okay, I love you too." He hung up and looked at me with guilty eyes. "Robert wants you to come less often. He says we need space to be a real couple." "And what do you want?" "I want everyone to be happy." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have, Mum." I said goodbye with a heavy heart. I knew things were going to get worse. I could feel it. Over the next few weeks, Molly stopped answering my calls as often. When she did, her answers were short, evasive. "I'm fine, Mum. Everything's fine. Don't worry." But I worried. I worried every minute of every day. One Saturday morning, a month and a half after the wedding, I received a call from Lauren, Molly's friend. "Mrs. Pierce, I saw Molly at the supermarket. And how was she?" "Bad. She looked very thin, and when I tried to talk to her, Robert appeared out of nowhere. He practically dragged her away, as if I were a danger." "Thank you for telling me, Lauren." "Mum, something is not right. You have to do something." "I know. I'm trying." But the truth was that I didn't know what to do. I couldn't force my daughter to leave her husband. I couldn't force her to set boundaries. I couldn't live her life for her. I could only be there, waiting, ready for when she needed me, and praying that it wouldn't be too late. That night, before sleeping, I took out the house deed. I read it again. Every word, every clause. The house was in Molly's name. Only Molly's. Robert had no legal right over it. But legal rights don't matter when someone has convinced you that you have no right to have rights. And that was exactly what Robert was doing, convincing my daughter that she didn't deserve to have something of her own, that being a good wife meant giving up everything, that true love was total sacrifice. I put the papers away and turned off the light. Outside it started to rain, one of those heavy rains that announce a storm, and I, lying in my bed, thought about my daughter, about my granddaughter or grandson on the way, about the future that looked darker and darker, and I wondered if everything I had done had been for anything, or if I had only delayed the inevitable. 2 more months passed, 2 months in which I barely saw my daughter, 2 months in which every phone call was shorter than the last, 2 months in which I felt like I was losing her. Molly was already 4 months pregnant. Her belly was just starting to show. I only knew because one afternoon I managed to convince her to meet up for some shopping. "You need maternity clothes," I had told her over the phone. "Robert says it's still too soon." "Robert is not the one who is pregnant. Come on, let's buy some nice things." She accepted with that tired voice that was already so familiar to me. We met at a shopping mall in the West Village. When I saw her arrive, I had to control the urge to cry. She was very thin. Her face looked gaunt. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair, which had always been her pride, was dull and lifeless. "My love," I hugged her tightly. "Hi, Mum." We entered a maternity store. There were nice dresses, colourful, comfortable. I started pulling out options. "Look at this blue one. You would love it. And this yellow one. Imagine it with your hair down." "Mum, no." "No what?" "I can't buy colours. Robert prefers that I wear black or grey. He says it's more elegant." "Molly, you are going to be a mother. You are not going to a funeral." "I know, but it's easier this way, without arguments." The saleswoman looked at us with curiosity. I pretended not to notice. We ended up buying 3 dresses, all black, all lifeless, like my daughter had become. We went to get something at a coffee shop in the mall. She ordered chamomile tea. I ordered coffee. "How have you been feeling? Nausea? Dizziness?" "In the beginning, yes. Now better." "Have you been to the doctor?" "Yes, with the gynecologist that Mrs. Harrington recommended." "And how is he? Do you like him? Do you feel comfortable with him?" "He's professional." That word. Professional. Not kind. Not understanding. Professional. "Does Robert go with you to the appointments?" "Sometimes. When he can. He says his work is very demanding." "But the job of being a husband is also demanding, especially when your wife is pregnant." She didn't say anything. She just stirred her tea with the spoon, again and again, a nervous gesture that she had never had before. "Mum, There's something I need to tell you. My heart raced. Tell me. Robert found a buyer for the house. The world stopped. What? It's a young couple. They have 2 children. They are willing to pay a good price. Robert says that with that money and what he has saved, we can buy the apartment in Midtown that he likes so much. Molly, no. I already signed the preliminary papers. I felt like I couldn't breathe. You already signed? Robert told me it was just to show that we were interested, that we could still back out. And do you want to back out? She started crying. There, in the middle of the coffee shop, with people around. I don't know what I want, Mum. Robert says it's what's best for the baby, that in Midtown there are better schools, better parks, better everything, that I am selfish for clinging to a house just because you gave it to me. That house is yours. It is your security. It is your freedom. Robert says that freedom in marriage is a myth, that when 2 people get married they become one, and that what is mine is his and what is his is mine. Then why is the new apartment going to be in both your names, but he didn't put the house in both your names when you got married? She was silent. I could see that she had never asked herself that question. She hadn't thought about that. Well, think about it now. Think carefully. Why does he want you to sell what is yours to buy something that will belong to both of you? Why don't you buy the new apartment and keep the house as an investment? He says we don't need 2 properties. He has more than 2 properties, Molly. He has the apartment where he lived when you were dating. He has a plot of land in Napa Valley that his dad inherited. He has shares in the family company. But the only thing he wants to get rid of is yours. I saw how the ideas began to connect in her mind, how she began to see what I had seen from the beginning. My God, she whispered. You're right. My love, I need you to promise me something. Don't sign anything else. Nothing. Until you talk to a lawyer. A lawyer? Robert will think I don't trust him. And maybe you shouldn't trust him, at least not blindly. She wiped her tears with a napkin. What am I going to do, Mum? I already signed those preliminary papers. Tomorrow we will go with Mr. Davis, the lawyer who helped me with the deed for the house. He will tell us what can be done. Robert cannot find out. He won't find out, unless you tell him. We stayed a little longer in the coffee shop. Molly started talking, and once she started, she couldn't stop. She told me things that chilled my blood, how Robert checked her phone every night while she slept, how he had asked her for the passwords to all her social media accounts, how he got angry if she took more than 10 minutes to reply to his messages, how he had started criticizing her body, her weight, the way she dressed, the way she spoke, how Mrs. Harrington came to the house without calling and checked how clean it was, how she left her little notes where she had found dust or mess, how Robert had suggested that she quit her job, even though she had only been working for a year as a graphic designer at a small agency. He says that with the baby I won't be able to concentrate, that it's better if I resign now and dedicate myself to preparing everything for when he is born. And do you want to resign? I like my job. They don't pay much, but I like it. It makes me feel useful. Then don't resign. But Robert says, Robert says, Robert says, Robert says. I hit the table gently but firmly. And what do you say, Molly? When are you going to start saying what you want? She looked at me with scared eyes, like a little girl. I don't know how. Then we will learn together. The next day we went to see Mr. Davis. His office was in an old building in Boston. We went up 3 floors by narrow stairs. The lawyer was a man of about 60 years, with thick glasses and a completely white beard. He received us warmly. Mrs. Pierce, Miss Molly, come in, come in. I explained the situation to him. He listened carefully, making some notes in a notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair and sighed. I see. Well, first things first. Did you bring the papers you signed? Molly took some documents out of her purse. The lawyer read them carefully. After a few minutes, he looked up. This is a letter of intent. It is not legally binding. You can back out without any problem. Molly let out a sigh of relief. Seriously? Seriously. But there is something more important that we must discuss. This house is deeded only in your name, correct? Yes, and there is a special trust agreement that prevents your husband from having rights over it, correct? Well, I need you to know something. To sell that house, you need to sign in front of a notary, and the notary has the obligation to make sure that you understand what you are doing, that you are not being pressured. And if I have already signed in front of the notary, have you already done it? No, not yet. Robert said we had an appointment next week. The lawyer leaned forward. Molly, look at me. If you don't want to sell that house, no one can force you. Your husband has no legal right over it, none. Do you understand? But we're married. And yet, the trust agreement that your mother established is very clear. That property is yours and only yours. Robert says I'm selfish. Robert is trying to manipulate you into giving up your security. Molly started crying again. I don't know what to do. If I don't sell the house, he is going to get so angry. I don't know what will happen. The lawyer looked at me. Then he looked at Molly. Honey, has your husband threatened you? Has he laid a hand on you? No, never. He's not violent. But are you afraid of his reaction? She didn't answer immediately. That was already an answer. I'm afraid that everything will get worse, she finally said. That he'll get angry. That he'll punish me with silence. That he'll go off with his mother and leave me alone. And would that be so bad? The lawyer asked softly. Being alone. I'm pregnant. I can't be alone. You wouldn't be alone, I said. You have me. You have the house. You have options. The lawyer took a business card from his desk. Look, I'm going to give you the number of a colleague of mine. She is a lawyer specializing in family law. If at any point you feel you need advice about your marriage, about custody, about anything, call her. Okay? Molly took the card with trembling hands. Thank you. We left the office with more questions than answers. But at least Molly now knew that she had rights, that she was not completely defenseless. I walked her to the bus stop back to Beverly Hills. Before she got on, I hugged her. I love you, my dear, and I'm going to be here, always. I know, Mum. I love you too. I watched the bus drive away. Molly waved to me from the window, and I had a bad feeling, a feeling in my stomach that I couldn't ignore. That night, at 11:30, my phone rang. It was Molly, crying so hard she could barely speak. Mum, I need you to come. Please. What happened? Are you okay? Is it the baby? Robert knows. He knows we went to the lawyer. I don't know how he found out, but he knows. Where are you? In the house. He left. He said horrible things, Mom. He said that I was ungrateful, that he had been so good to me and I was paying him back like this, that you had brainwashed me. I'm on my way. Don't move. Do you hear me? Don't move. Hurry, Mom. Please. I hung up and ran out. I didn't even change out of my pajamas. I put on a sweater and ran down the stairs of my building, almost flying. There were no taxis on the street. I had to walk 4 blocks to a main avenue. Finally, I found one. Beverly Hills, Magnolia Street. And hurry, please. The journey was eternal. Every red light was torture. Every slow car was an unbearable obstacle. When we finally arrived, I gave the taxi driver $200 and told him to keep the change. I ran toward the house. The door was ajar. "Molly?" I found her sitting on the stairs, hugging her knees. She was trembling. I sat next to her and hugged her. "I'm here now. It's over." "It's not over, Mum. This is just beginning." She was right. This was just beginning, and the worst was yet to come. That night I stayed with Molly. I wasn't going to leave her alone. Robert didn't return. His phone rang and rang, but she didn't answer. "Let it ring," I told her. "Let him calm down first." "He's not going to calm down, Mum. He's furious. I've never seen him like this." "What exactly happened? How did he find out?" She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I don't know. I got home around 6 o'clock. He was already here. That was strange because he usually gets home after 8 o'clock. He was sitting in the living room with the lights off, just sitting there in the dark." A chill ran down my spine. "And what did he say?" "At first, nothing. He just looked at me. Then he asked where I had been. I told him I had gone shopping with you. He asked me what I had bought. I showed him the dresses. He threw them on the floor." Molly trembled as she spoke. "Then he said, 'Were you shopping or were you with a lawyer?'" I froze, Mum. How did he know? I didn't tell anyone. Only you. Did someone see you? Someone you know? "I don't know. Maybe. The lawyer's office is in Boston. There are a lot of restaurants and coffee shops there. Someone could have seen us and told Robert. Or maybe he's following you." She looked at me with wide eyes. "Do you think he would follow me?" It wouldn't be the first time a jealous man has followed his wife. Robert is not jealous. He's protective. My love, there's a very thin line between protection and control, and Robert crossed it a long time ago. I made herbal tea for both of us. We sat on the living room sofa. Outside it had started raining again. The sound of the water against the windows was the only thing that broke the silence. "What else did he tell you?" "He said that I was ungrateful, that any woman would be happy to have a husband like him, that he gave me everything and I only paid him back with distrust. I told him that I had only gone to consult about the papers I signed, that I wanted to make sure everything was all right." "And what did he say?" "He yelled. I had never heard him yell like that. He said that we didn't need lawyers meddling in our marriage, that family problems are resolved in the family, that you had turned me against him from the beginning." "I didn't turn you against him. I just gave you tools to protect yourself." "I know, Mum. I know now." Molly's phone vibrated. It was a message from Robert. "What does it say?" She read out loud. "I'm at my parents' house. I need to think. We'll talk tomorrow. But I want you to know that this has to end. Either you are completely with me, or you are not with me at all. You decide." "It's an ultimatum." "Yes." "And what are you going to do?" Molly put her hands on her belly. Her small belly was barely noticeable under the loose t-shirt. "I don't know. I have a baby on the way. I can't raise a child alone." "You wouldn't be alone. You would have me, and you would have your house, and your job." "Robert wants me to resign from work." "Of course he does, because as long as you have a job, you have independence, you have your own money, you have a life outside of him." "Mum, you sound like you hate Robert." "I don't hate him. I don't even really know him. But I hate what he's doing to you. I hate seeing how you're slowly disappearing." She started crying again. That night, she cried so much that I thought she wouldn't have any more tears left. At 3 o'clock in the morning, she finally fell asleep. I stayed awake, sitting in a chair next to the sofa where she was sleeping. I didn't want to leave her alone for a second. I thought about everything that had happened. At the wedding, about the maid's uniform, about Robert's face when he saw the deed to the house, about how everything had gradually gotten worse. And I wondered what would have happened if I hadn't given her the house, if everything would have been different, if perhaps Robert would have been a better husband, if he hadn't felt threatened. But then I thought of Gloria, Robert's sister, about how she had lost everything, about how her mother hadn't protected her. And I knew I had done the right thing. The next morning, Molly woke up with swollen eyes. I made coffee and found bread in the cupboard. We ate breakfast in silence. "I have to go to work," she said suddenly. "Are you sure? Can you call and say you're sick?" "No, I need to go. I need to do something normal, something that reminds me who I am." I understood her. Sometimes the most important thing in the middle of chaos is to maintain a routine, something that anchors you to reality. "Do you want me to go with you?" "No, Mum. I'm fine. Really. I'll take you at least." "Okay." I took her in a taxi to the agency where she worked. It was a small building in Manhattan. Before getting out, she hugged me tight. "Thank you for staying last night. I'm always going to stay when you need me." "I know." I watched her walk into the building. She looked so fragile, so small. I returned to the house in Beverly Hills. I needed to make sure everything was in order in case Robert returned. I picked up the dresses that he had thrown on the floor, folded them carefully, and put them in the main bedroom closet. Then I went downstairs and washed the tea mugs from the night before. I tidied the kitchen. I took out the trash. I was finishing up when I heard someone open the front door. Robert. He came in like a whirlwind. He was wearing the same clothes as the day before. He smelled of cigarette and alcohol. His eyes were red. "Where is Molly?" "At work." "Of course. Working." As if nothing had happened. "Something happened, Robert. And you know it." He looked at me with pure hatred. "You. All of this is your fault." "No. This is your fault, for treating my daughter like she's your property. She is my wife. Being a wife doesn't mean being a slave." "A slave," he laughed bitterly. "I gave her everything. A respectable last name, a good family, a future for her and her child. And you convinced her that I am the enemy." "I didn't have to convince her of anything. Your actions spoke for themselves." He approached me, too close. I could feel his breath. "Listen to me closely, Eleanor. Molly is my wife. That baby is my son. And this house farce is going to end. She is going to sell it, and we are going to buy something together, as it should be. That is not for you to decide." "Oh no, I'm her husband. I have every right." "You have no right. The house is in her name, only hers, and if she doesn't want to sell it, it won't be sold." "She already signed the papers." "She signed a letter of intent. It is not binding. Ask your lawyer if you don't believe me." I saw his face change. It turned red, then purple. "How do you know that?" "Because we went to a lawyer, a real one, who explained Molly's rights to us." He hit the wall with his fist, so hard that it left a mark. "This is unbelievable. Unbelievable. My own wife going to lawyers behind my back." "It wasn't behind your back. It was to protect herself." "Protect herself? Protect herself from what? From me? I am her husband. I love her. Love doesn't control. Love doesn't isolate. Love doesn't manipulate." "You don't know anything about love. You were widowed and bitter, and now you want your daughter to end up the same way." Those words hurt me. but I wasn't going to let him notice. My husband respected me every day of our life together. He never made me feel less. He never tried to control me. That is love, Robert. What you feel for Molly is not love. It is a need for possession. Get out of my house. This is not your house. It is Molly's. Get out. I didn't move. I'm going to leave, but listen to me closely. If you hurt my daughter, if you lay a hand on her, if you threaten her or hurt her in any way, I will personally make sure you pay for it. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you. I walked out of the house with my head held high, but when I closed the door behind me, my legs were shaking. I had crossed a line. I had confronted Robert directly, and I knew that would have consequences. I called Molly from a public phone on the corner. My dear, Robert is at the house. He arrived while I was there. What? What happened? We had a conversation, a strong conversation. I think it's better if you don't go home tonight. Stay with me. Mum, I have to go. It's my house. I can't run away. It's not running away. It's being smart. Let him calm down. I'm tired of waiting for him to calm down. It's always the same. He gets angry. I wait. He half calms down, and then we go back to the same thing. Then what are you going to do? I'm going home, and we are going to talk, like adults, like a couple. Eleanor, Mum, I love you, but I need to do this. I need to face him. At least take me with you. I can wait for you outside. No, this is between Robert and me. She hung up. I stood there on that corner, phone in hand, feeling like I had just made a terrible mistake. I shouldn't have let her go alone. The hours passed, 6 o'clock in the evening, 7, 8. Molly didn't call. At 9 o'clock, I called her. She didn't answer. At 9:30, I called again. Nothing. At 10 o'clock, I took a taxi back to Beverly Hills. When I got to the house, all the lights were off. I rang the doorbell. No one opened. I used my keys. Molly, Robert. The house was silent. A heavy silence, unnatural. I went up the stairs running. The door to the main bedroom was locked. Molly, open the door. I heard a sob on the other side. Mum, open the door, my love. I can't. Robert took the keys. He locked me in. I felt my blood boil. Where is he? I don't know. He left an hour ago. He said he needed air. But he locked me in here, with the lock on the outside. I'm going to break the door down. No, Mum. It's very thick. You won't be able to. She was right. It was a solid wood door. I'm going to call the fire department. No. Please, I've already caused enough of a scene. The neighbors will... I don't give a damn about the neighbors. We'll get you out of there and then we'll see. I called the emergency number. I explained the situation. They told me they would send a unit. 20 minutes later, 2 firefighters arrived, young men in blue uniforms. What's the situation? My daughter is locked in that bedroom. Her husband locked her in. They looked at each other. They knew that type of situation. Is she okay? Is she not hurt? Molly, my love, are you okay? Yes, Mum. I'm fine. Just scared. We'll get her out, Mum, one of the firefighters said. It took them 10 minutes to force the door. When it finally opened, I ran inside. Molly was sitting on the floor next to the bed, hugging her knees, just like that first time I found her like that. I hugged her so tightly that I probably hurt her. It's over. You're out. The firefighters stayed for a moment. Miss, do you want us to call the police? What your husband did is illegal. It's false imprisonment. Molly shook her head. No, I just want to leave here. Are you sure? Yes, please. I just want to leave. The firefighters left. I helped Molly pack a suitcase, clothes, important documents, her personal hygiene items. The house papers? I asked. In the study, in the first drawer of the desk. I ran downstairs. I found the documents, the deed, the trust agreement. Everything was there. I put them in my purse. When we left the house, it was almost 11 o'clock at night. The street was dark and silent. The bougainvillea moved in the wind. Molly turned to look at the house one last time. I thought I was going to be happy here. You still can be, just not with him. I'm pregnant, Mum. 4 months pregnant. What am I going to do? You are going to be a mother. You are going to raise your child with dignity and love. And you are going to teach him or her that never, ever does anyone have the right to lock you in. That night, Molly slept in my bed, just like when she was a little girl and had nightmares. And I stayed awake, watching, protecting, because I knew this wasn't over. Robert was not going to accept her leaving just like that. The storm was just beginning, and the worst was still to come. The next 3 days were hell. Robert called constantly. He left messages, some full of apologies, others full of threats. My love, forgive me. I don't know what happened to me. I was so angry, so confused. Please come back. I promise it will be different. And then, 2 hours later, if you don't come back, I'm going to make you regret it. That baby is mine too. You can't take him away from me. My family has lawyers. The best. We are going to take custody away from you. Molly listened to the messages and cried. I deleted each one after she listened to it. He can't take custody away from you, I told her. You have nothing to worry about. But his family has money, Mum. They have power. What if they can? They can't. You haven't done anything wrong. He was the one who locked you in. He was the one who mistreated you. On the 4th day, Mrs. Harrington showed up at my door. She rang the doorbell at 10 o'clock in the morning. When I opened it, she was there in her designer coat and dark glasses. I need to talk to Molly. She doesn't want to talk to anyone from your family. I am her mother-in-law. I have a right. You have no right. Leave. Eleanor, don't be ridiculous. This can be fixed. They are a married couple. They have a baby on the way. They just need to talk. Your son locked my daughter in, with a lock, as if she were a prisoner. He was upset. Men do things when they are upset. That is not an excuse, and it never will be. You are the one who has caused all this, with your damn house, with your need to control Molly. I didn't lock her in. Your son did. Mrs. Harrington pursed her lips. Robert is devastated. He's not eating. He's not sleeping. He just cries and asks for her. Then let him come and beg her forgiveness on his knees. And even then, I don't know if she should forgive him. They are husband and wife, before God. God does not approve of mistreatment. She was silent for a moment. Then she took an envelope from her purse. This is an offer. From my husband. An offer? If Molly returns to Robert, my husband will give her an apartment in her name. Only hers. As compensation. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Are you telling me you want to buy my daughter? It's not buying her. It's securing her future. Her future is secured. She has a house, the one I gave her. And she has her dignity, which your son almost took away from her. That house is not enough. Mr. William is offering something much better. In Midtown, 3 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces. I don't care if he's offering a palace. My daughter is not going back to a man who locked her in. Mrs. Harrington put the envelope away. This is a mistake. We are all going to regret this. The only thing I regret is not having seen what kind of family you are sooner. She left without saying more. When I closed the door, I was shaking with rage. Molly had heard everything from the living room. An apartment in Midtown. It doesn't matter where it is. It's not worth your freedom. But Mum, it's a good offer. And with the baby you need to be safe, peaceful, not with a man who locks you in when you don't do what he wants. She sat on the sofa. She looked so tired. I don't know what to do. Yes, you do. Deep down, you know. That afternoon we went with the lawyer that Mr. Davis had recommended. Her name was Sarah Thompson. She was about 40 years old and had a direct look that inspired confidence. We told her everything, from the wedding to the false imprisonment. She took notes without interrupting. When we finished, she looked up. You have a very clear case of psychological violence and false imprisonment. We can proceed with a divorce lawsuit and request a restraining order. Restraining order? Molly asked. Leah. Yes, so Robert can't approach you. It's for your safety and the baby's. But he's the father of my child. And he will be able to see his child, but with supervision, at least until he proves he is not a danger. Molly started crying. This got out of control. We just wanted to be happy. I know, Sarah said softly, but happiness cannot be built on fear. And you are afraid of your husband. That is not right. We left the office with papers to sign. A divorce lawsuit, a request for child support, a temporary restraining order. Everything was becoming real, very real. That night, Molly finally made her decision. I'm getting a divorce. Are you sure? No, but it's the right thing to do. For me, for my baby. I hugged her as tightly as I could. I'm proud of you. I'm so scared, Mum. I know, but I'm here, and I'm never going to leave you alone. The next day, we signed the papers. The lawyer presented everything to the judge. Robert received the notification 3 days later, and then the real hell began. Calls, messages, appearances at my building, calls to Molly's work. But she stood firm. I'm not coming back, she told him over the phone one night. I can't. You hurt me, Robert, and I need to protect myself. It's protecting yourself from me. I'm your husband. I love you. Love doesn't lock you in. Love doesn't control. My mum was right. Your mum destroyed you. We were happy until she put her ideas in your head. We weren't happy. I was unhappy. I was just so scared that I couldn't admit it. She hung up. And for the first time in months, I saw something in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a long time. Peace. Not happiness yet, but peace. And that was enough for now. 6 months later, Molly gave birth to a beautiful girl. Her name was Ellen, like my mother. The birth was natural, without complications. I was there, holding her hand, wiping her forehead with a damp cloth. You did it, my dear. You did it. When they placed the baby in her arms, Molly cried. But this time they were tears of joy. Hello, my love. Hello, Ellen. Your mum is going to take care of you always, I promise you. Robert was not at the birth. The restraining order was still in effect. He could only see the baby with supervision once a week at a specialized center. At first he went religiously. He held Ellen, he talked to her, he sang to her. But over time the visits became spaced out. 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Where is Dad? The center supervisor would ask when Molly arrived. I don't know. He didn't answer my messages. Robert had found someone else, a 23-year-old girl who worked at his father's company. Pretty, young, no children, no house of her own, completely dependent on him. We found out from Gloria, Robert's sister, who had started visiting Molly regularly. My brother introduced his new girlfriend at the house. My mother is happy. She says he finally found someone who makes him happy. And Ellen? Molly asked. He doesn't mention her. It's as if she doesn't exist. I saw how my daughter's face went from surprise to pain, and then to something different. Acceptance. At least now Ellen won't grow up confused. She will grow up knowing that her mum loves her, and that's enough. The divorce was finalised 8 months after Ellen's birth. Robert signed everything without a fight. He was too busy with his new life. He waived shared custody. He only requested sporadic visits. I can't be a father right now, he told his lawyer. I have other priorities. The child support that the judge ordered him to pay was generous, but Robert almost never paid it on time. There was always an excuse, a problem with the bank, a business trip, a forgetfulness. Molly had to sue him 3 times for lack of payment. It's exhausting, Mum. Every month is a struggle. I know, my dear, but don't give up. That child support is Ellen's right. Meanwhile, Molly's life began to flourish in unexpected ways. She had returned to work when Ellen was 6 months old. Her boss, impressed by her dedication, offered her a promotion. I want you to be the creative director. You have talent and vision. She had also met other single mothers at the park. They formed a support group, helped each other with childcare, shared recipes, listened to each other when they needed to vent. For the first time in years, I feel like myself, she told me one afternoon as we were having coffee in her living room. The house in Beverly Hills now had life. There were photographs on the walls, plants in the windows, Ellen's toys everywhere. You look happy. I am. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I get exhausted. But I'm free, Mum, and that is priceless. A year after the divorce, Gloria called me. Eleanor, I need to tell you something about Robert. What happened? He's getting married again to the young girl. So fast. She's pregnant. My mother is organizing a big wedding. She says that this time, everything is going to be different. That this girl really knows what it means to be a good wife. I felt sorry, not for Robert, for that girl who didn't know what she was getting into. And how is Robert? Gloria sighed. Unhappy, it shows. He smiles for the photos, but he looks empty. My dad says that Robert asks about Molly, about Ellen, but he is too proud to admit that he made a mistake. 2 years after the divorce, we received news from the Harrington family again. Robert and his second wife had separated. She had left him, taking their 1-year-old son. She said he was controlling, that he isolated her from her family, that he checked her phone. Everything you said he was doing, Gloria told me over the phone. It's sad, I said sincerely. Sad that he doesn't learn. My dad tried to talk to him, told him he needed therapy. Robert yelled that everyone was against him, that modern women don't know how to be wives. Mr. William had tried to approach Molly several times. He wanted to meet his granddaughter, but he respected that she needed time. Finally, when Ellen turned 3, Molly accepted a visit. Mr. William arrived with tears in his eyes. She's just like you when you were a baby, he told Molly. Beautiful. He had brought her a gift, a small necklace with a cross charm. It was my mother's, for Ellen, to protect her. Thank you, Mr. William. I am so sorry for what my son did to you. I tried to raise him better. I really did. It's not your fault. Robert is an adult. He made his own decisions. The old man nodded sadly. Do you know? Robert lost his job at the family company. Why? Because my dad discovered that he was diverting funds to maintain his lifestyle. to impress his girlfriends. He fired him, and Mrs. Harrington continues to defend him. She says everyone is unfair to him, that the world is against him. But I am tired, very tired. 3 months later, Mr. William passed away, a heart attack while he slept. Molly went to the funeral. She took Ellen, who already understood that this older gentleman was her grandfather. Robert was there. He looked gaunt, older than his 32 years indicated. When he saw Molly, he approached her. "Thanks for coming. I'm sorry for your loss. He loved you very much. He always defended you." "I know." Robert looked at Ellen. The girl had Molly's dark hair and his green eyes. "She's beautiful." "Yes. I ruined everything, didn't I?" Molly didn't answer immediately. Then, in a soft but firm voice, she said, "Yes, you ruined it, but I built something better from the ruins." He nodded. A tear rolled down his cheek. "I'm sorry. For everything." "I know." It was the last time they spoke. Years later, I heard that Robert was still alone. He lived in a small apartment. He worked at a company that wasn't his family's. His mother visited him often, still blaming the world for his unhappiness. And I thought about how life always collects its debts. Robert had wanted to control. He had wanted to possess. And in the end, he was left with nothing. While Molly, who had had the courage to leave, to rebuild herself, to choose her freedom, had everything. He once called me crazy when I told her not to sell the house. Years later, I saw him alone at his father's funeral, with that empty look of someone who knows he lost the best thing he had. Life always collects its debts. Always. Today, Ellen is 7 years old. She is a brilliant girl, full of life and questions. "Grandma, why doesn't my dad come to see me?" It's the question that hurts me the most to hear, but Molly has learned to answer it with honesty. "Because your dad is lost, my love. Sometimes adult people get lost and don't know how to find their way back. And will he find it someday?" "I don't know, my darling. But what I do know is that you have a lot of love. From your mum, from your grandma, from all the people who love you." And it's true. Ellen is surrounded by love. The house in Beverly Hills continues to be the refuge for both of them. Molly never sold it. She never considered it after that night. The bougainvillea has grown so much that it covers almost the entire back wall. The fountain continues to sing with the water falling over the tiles. And in the afternoons, Molly and Ellen sit on the main bedroom balcony to watch the sunset. "This place saved us," Molly told me a few months ago. "Not just physically, emotionally. Having a place of my own, something that no one could take away from me, gave me the strength to keep going. That's why I gave it to you, my dear. I know, and I thank you for it every day." Molly is now creative director of a large agency. She earns well, has savings, and has started investing. "I want Ellen to have what I had," she tells me. Security, options, the certainty that she will never completely depend on anyone. She has also met someone. His name is Jeff. He is an elementary school teacher. Divorced too, with a daughter Ellen's age. They are not in a hurry. They have only been dating for 6 months. But what I see in them is different from what I saw with Robert. I see respect. I see that he listens to her. I see that he consults her before making plans. I see that he doesn't try to change her. "It's strange, Mum," Molly told me last week. "With Robert, I always felt like I had to be less so he could feel like more. With Jeff, I feel like I can be everything I am." That's how love should be, my dear. You should never make yourself small so someone else can feel big. We know little about Robert. Gloria tells us from time to time. He is still alone. He has had some girlfriends, but no relationship lasts. He continues to blame everyone but himself for his unhappiness. Mrs. Harrington died last year. Until the end, she defended Robert. Until the end, she blamed modern women for not knowing how to be wives. Gloria finally gathered the courage to get a divorce 3 years ago. She now works again at the family company that was left in her hands after Mr. Williams' death. "Your mum inspired me," she told me at a dinner we had at the house. "Seeing how she protected Molly made me realize that I also deserved protection, even if I had to give it to myself." This afternoon, I am sitting in the patio of the Beverly Hills house. Ellen is playing with her dolls near the fountain. Molly is in the kitchen preparing iced tea. I look around and I see everything we built from those ruins. I see a strong mother raising her daughter with love and dignity. I see a happy girl who knows she is loved. I see a house full of life and laughter. And I think about that night at the Grand Ballroom in Dallas, about the maid's uniform, about Robert's face when he said, "Perfect. She's going to need this at home." I think about how I took the box with the documents out, about how everything changed in that moment. And I realized that it wasn't the house that saved Molly. It was knowing that she had options. It was knowing that she was not trapped. It was knowing that her mother had loved her enough to give her the freedom to choose. Ellen runs toward me. "Grandma, when I grow up, am I going to have a house too?" "Yes, my love. Your mum and I are going to make sure of that." "So no one can lock me in?" I freeze. Molly comes out of the kitchen. "What did you say, my darling?" "I heard you telling Uncle Jeff that my dad locked you in and that's why you left." Molly kneels in front of her. "Yes, my love. But that's over now. And the important thing is that I learned something. I learned that we should never, ever let anyone take our freedom away. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mummy. And that's why we have this house. To always be free." "Exactly." Ellen hugs her mum and then runs off to play again. Molly sits next to me. She takes my hand. "Thank you, Mum. For everything. For the house. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. For staying that night. For all the nights. You have nothing to thank me for. You are my daughter. I will always protect you. And I am going to protect Ellen. I am going to teach her what you taught me, that true love doesn't control, that freedom is not selfishness, that a woman must always have something of her own." We sit watching Ellen play. The sun is setting. The bougainvillea looks even more beautiful in the golden light of the sunset. And I think about all the women who are listening to this story, the ones who are in difficult marriages, the ones who are afraid to leave, the ones who think they have no options. I want them to know something. There are always options. There is always a way out. There is always hope. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us of it. Sometimes we just need a house, or a job, or a friend, or a mother who tells us, "You can do it. You are worthy. You deserve to be free." That night at the ballroom, when I took those documents out of the blue velvet box, I didn't know how this story was going to end. But now I know. It ended with freedom, with dignity, with love. And that is all a mother can wish for her daughter. If my story helps even a single woman open her eyes, it will have been worth it. If my decision inspires even a single mother to protect her daughter, I will have fulfilled my purpose. Because in the end, true love is not controlling. True love is giving wings. And sometimes, those wings take the form of a deed, of a house, of a way out. Thank you for listening to me until the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and turn on notifications to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change an entire day. God bless you, and until next time.